Me, 36-year-old man, and my ex, 35-year-old woman, share one child who is 6 years old. We were together for 3 years before getting married. She got pregnant in our first year of marriage, and we split when our daughter was 2. Our relationship was pretty good overall, with no serious fighting or anything, but finances were a major part of our split. We both had good jobs prior to marriage, but once she got pregnant, my ex began to hate her highly competitive field and wanted to be a stay-at-home mom while our daughter was little. I was okay with that for the first year, but we both agreed that she would eventually go back to work, and my mom would be able to provide childcare. Professional childcare would also be easily affordable in such a situation, but we both felt more comfortable with family. My mom is retired, her parents live on the other side of the country. I had no expectation that she would return to her previous field, and could accept a lower-paid position that would be lower stress and hours. But after the 1-year mark, she made it clear that she wasn't interested. By this point, there was a lot of arguing and resentment, and I think we both just felt that we weren't on the same page and that we were better off splitting up. I felt that we would not be able to have the lifestyle and savings that I wanted on just my income, and she thought that we would be depriving our daughter too much by both of us working. Neither of us was really willing to compromise, so we divorced fairly amicably. Minimal assets split 50/50ths, only 6 months of alimony due to the short marriage and her imputed income earning ability, and 50/50ths custody with me paying child support until she found a job. Sounds fine, right? Well, no, as it turned out. Over the next several years, she failed to find any sort of real work despite having a good degree and experience, and ended up moving in with a guy and having a kid with him. Meanwhile, my career took off, and my earnings went way up. She applied for child support modification, and the court basically imputed her income at close to zero because she'd been out of the workforce for so long, and now I pay her $2,000 a month. I can afford this quite easily, but it's still a pretty bitter pill to swallow as she has faced no consequences at all for failing to support herself, and I think the judge awarded her so much in lieu of spousal support. That brings us up to the present time. She has split with Guy 2, was kicked out of his place, and has moved in with Guy 3 along with our daughter and her son with Guy 2. My daughter hates the new living arrangement, as they are in a small house with this guy's other older kids, young teens, I think, and from what I've seen, he's a bit of a scumbag. He owns a small business, has lots of Yelp reviews saying he scammed people, and he has a criminal record. So my ex calls me up and asks if I would give her more money so she can get her own place for her and both kids. The living situation is not good, and she thinks Guy 3 is going to kick her out. I said I'd think about it, but what I actually did was call my lawyer, who thinks I have a very good shot at getting full custody. Without a job, there is no way she can afford her own place, even with the money I'm giving her, so she's borderline homeless at this point. I called her back and told her that she's not getting any more money and that I was filing for full custody. I have zero issues with her having generous visitation, whenever she wants even, but I don't want my daughter spending 50% of her time in such an unstable situation. I also don't want my overly large child support payment being used primarily to support my ex and her other kid. My ex screamed at me that I'm making her and her other kid homeless, and now my ex-in-laws have joined in along with some people, friends and family, calling me heartless, and that I could easily afford to support her. When the child support is reduced, even with 100% custody, I wouldn't be surprised if I have to keep paying something. She is going to be really screwed financially. Am I the idiot for not paying more and seeking full custody that will likely result in her sole source of income being cut off? Edit. The argument my in-laws used is this: I help her get a place on her own and get her back on her feet, then my daughter has a better life overall by having 50% time with her mom. This does make a lot of moral sense to me, but it just feels like I'm being treated as the dependable workhorse providing for everyone, and there would be no guarantee that she would become self-sufficient. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, it's time for her to get a job and stop relying on others to fix and fund her life. Get custody of your child and tell her to figure out her situation. As for everyone else questioning whether you should help her, tell them that supporting her to find her own place is a great idea. Their generosity in donating money to her on a monthly basis is truly remarkable. Please inform me how they decide to split the funds amongst themselves so that I can include it in the custody papers. Comment 2. Yeesh, some women can be really foolish. Wife. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Husband. No. Wife. All right. I will file for a divorce, but I will have to get a job anyway, and my quality of life will greatly diminish. I'm so clever. Now, for the update. Thanks for the comments on my last post. Here's what happened next. After I hung up with my ex, I was fuming. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to manipulate me into bailing her out again. It was like a slap in the face considering how hard I'd worked to provide for our daughter, while she seemed to just coast along, jumping from one guy to the next. A couple of days later, I got a call from my mom. She was upset, saying she'd heard from my ex's parents. They were pleading with her, trying to get her to talk some sense into me. They said my ex was desperate, that she was trying to find a job, but with the pandemic, it was tougher than ever. They made it sound like I was the villain for not helping out more. I couldn't believe they were taking her side after everything. Then, out of nowhere, my daughter's school called. There had been an incident. My daughter had gotten into a fight with another kid. She'd never been in trouble before, and the principal was concerned about the sudden change in her behavior. They suggested it might be due to stress at home. That hit me hard. I knew then that I had to do something. I decided to take a bold move. I went to court and filed for an emergency custody hearing, citing the unstable living conditions and the impact on my daughter's well-being. The hearing was tense. My ex showed up with her new boyfriend, Guy 3, and they both tried to paint a rosy picture of their home life. But when my lawyer presented evidence of the guy's shady past and the Yelp reviews of his business, the judge was clearly skeptical of their story. The judge granted me temporary full custody. My ex was devastated. She accused me of stealing her daughter and ruining her life. But I felt like it was the right thing to do for my daughter's safety and happiness. I thought that was the end of it, but then my ex's parents reached out to me again. They had a proposal. They offered to help their daughter financially if I would agree to a new custody arrangement that would give my ex more time with our daughter once she got back on her feet. They said they were willing to put their money where their mouth was and help her rent a place, get a car, and even pay for some job training courses. I was torn. On one hand, I wanted my daughter to have a good relationship with her mom. On the other hand, I was skeptical of my ex's ability to turn things around, even with her parents' help. But the thought of my daughter having a better life overall if her mom was more stable swayed me. I agreed to the deal, thinking it was a compromise for the greater good. I called my ex and told her about the arrangement. She was overjoyed and promised she would do everything in her power to make it work. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But then, just a week later, I heard from a mutual friend that my ex had been seen out at a bar, partying with Guy 3 like she didn't have a care in the world. It seemed like she hadn't changed at all. I felt like a fool for trusting her and her parents' promises. I realized I might have made the wrong choice, but I didn't know it yet. I should have known better. I should have stuck to my guns and kept full custody until she actually proved she could be responsible. Now, I'm stuck waiting to see if she'll follow through on her promises, or if I've just enabled her to continue her pattern of relying on others to solve her problems. Thanks for reading. My sister's boyfriend assaulted our youngest, and she lied to protect him. But when justice was served, I made sure she felt the burn of betrayal by blocking her out of my life forever. Hi, everyone. I am a 22-year-old female, and I'm really struggling with this. I'm just going to give a quick backstory for this. My 33-year-old sister and her boyfriend at the time decided to come and enjoy Thanksgiving with my family. My fiancé and I alternate family houses every year for Thanksgiving. But this year, my fiancé's mom wanted us there again, so we decided to give in and visit my family next year. As I am chatting and playing games with my fiancé's family, I receive a call from my older sister. I take it outside, and she is absolutely hysterical, crying and begging me to not listen to my father or anything he is saying. I knew I needed to get to the bottom of this, so I called my dad, and he explained the situation. While in the midst of my dad making dinner, everyone was chilling and talking, and my little sister, 13 at the time, decided to go into the other room to watch some videos while waiting. My sister's boyfriend followed her and sexually attacked her. She immediately went and told my father, and he kicked them out. a bit depressing because it was also his birthday. He didn't call the police because he was absolutely baffled by the situation and trying to alleviate stress and work it out as fast as possible. He does regret it. Fast forward through the next 4 months of my older sister going to my mother's side of the family and spreading lies about my little sister, trying to convince everyone that she's a spoiled and evil little girl, just trying to spread lies about her fiancé. My mother's side ended up hating my little sister, and it made things so much worse for our family. It was, of course, brought to court because my little sister's story never changed. We decided to try to go no contact with her for a little while. We hoped that she would see that he was a terrible, evil person. My sister ended up getting pregnant and having a miscarriage and blamed it on my father. He tried to send her a Christmas present regardless of the situation, and she sent it back with a letter telling her she pretty much hated him. Over the course of the next year, she continued to spread lies and drag my family name through the mud. When my little sister saw her when she came over to grab some stuff, she tried to come out there and give her a hug because she missed her sister. My sister pushed her away and told her that she needs to tell the truth and stop lying to everyone because she's going to ruin her fiancé's life. It absolutely broke my little sister. She had therapy. She's doing okay now. It's been a year and a half. My sister was set to get married to this man on my birthday, 2023. I told her that if she were to go through with this, I would never talk to her again, that I would cut her off and she would no longer be my sister or any part of my family. Blood or not, she would make her decision. And she did. She got married, and none of us were there. And she posted about how disappointing that she couldn't have her family support her. I immediately blocked her on everything. She tried to get through to me through other people, and I refused to talk to her. My family continued to talk to her minimally in the hopes that she would end up changing her mind, or simply because my father couldn't just banish his own daughter. As petty as it is, I hated her. I hated her more than the selfish man who destroyed my family, because she was too blind and naive to see or understand that she would spread lies and pull apart my family in order to maintain his social image. He was set to go to court and take a plea deal. But because he's so stupid on the paperwork to take the plea deal, he essentially said that he wasn't in the wrong for anything, which defeated the purpose of taking the plea deal because you're supposed to admit that you did it in order to receive it. So the judge said that it was a joke and threw out the paperwork and sent it to court. His father fired his public defender and got an actual attorney, who managed to push the court date back to buy him some more time to gather evidence. So now it's going to court and putting my sister through even more trauma. The court date is set for April. She's trying to get in touch with me and my family. I haven't talked to her since she got married. And I refuse. Absolutely downright will not talk to her. And some of my mother's family members, as well as even some of my father's family members, are saying I'm taking it a bit too far, and it's a bit harsh to just cut her off completely. But it's my only way of not going over there and committing crimes. All I want to do is just to get past this, let my sister heal and forgive and forget. Am I the idiot for going no contact with her? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your older sister will get front row seats to the predator, pedophile that she enabled and covered up for. This won't be his first offense. No doubt he has done similar in the past, but escalated at your family's house to actually sexually attack your younger sister. I hope they throw the book at him, not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot at all. She's not your sister. She stopped being that the moment she went against your family and backed up an intimacy predator who sexually attacked your little sister. That's severely unforgivable. Never let her back in your life. She made her choice. She has to live with it. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a rough couple of weeks. So the court date was looming and tensions were high. My little sister was a bundle of nerves and we all were doing our best to support her. Then, out of nowhere, my older sister's husband got arrested for something unrelated, some fraud charges that had been building up without our knowledge. It was like a storm hit out of the blue, and suddenly, everyone was talking about it. My older sister was left scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next. She was all alone, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then she did something that made my blood boil. She reached out to my little sister, the one she had betrayed, asking for help, for support in her time of need. Can you believe that? After everything she put us through, she had the nerve to ask for help. My little sister, bless her heart, was conflicted. She still loved our sister despite it all. But I couldn't stand it. I told her not to get involved, that our older sister made her bed and now she had to lie in it. In the midst of all this, my dad got into a car accident. Nothing life-threatening, thank goodness, but it shook us all. It was like a wake-up call, reminding us how quickly things can change. My older sister didn't even show up at the hospital. That's when I knew for sure that there was no going back for us. And then, the second bomb dropped. My older sister's husband's lawyer somehow got hold of some old messages between my little sister and her friends. They were just silly, innocent things, but they twisted them, trying to make it seem like my little sister was lying about the attack. It was disgusting, how low they would stoop to save his skin. The trial was a circus, with our family's dirty laundry aired for all to see. But in the end, the truth came out. The messages were taken out of context, and my little sister's testimony was strong and unwavering. The jury saw right through their lies. He was found guilty, and the relief we felt was indescribable. It wasn't happiness, just a heavy weight lifted. After the trial, my older sister finally reached out to me. She was crying, saying she was sorry, that she didn't know who else to turn to. She said her husband was all she had, and now that he was going to be locked up, she was lost. She asked if there was any chance we could be a family again. I wanted to slam the door in her face, tell her she was dead to me. But I didn't. I just listened, said nothing, and closed the door gently. I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The family is divided on whether I should have been harsher or more forgiving. Some say I should have told her off, others that I should let her back in. But I'm just tired. Tired of the drama, the pain, the constant battle. I want to move on, but it's like we're stuck in this never-ending cycle of hurt. So here we are trying to pick up the pieces. My little sister is doing better, focusing on her future. My dad's recovering, and we're all just trying to find some normalcy again. But it's hard. Every time I think we're moving forward, something pulls us back. Thanks for sticking with me through this. It's been a lot to handle, and I'm just trying to make it through one day at a time. My drug-addicted father shows up after years demanding I donate my liver. So I slam the door on his lies and teach him a lesson about consequences. I am a 32-year-old female, and I have barely had a relationship with my father, who is 58 years old. My parents split up when I was 8 months old. My biological father was a drug addict and sold drugs when I was a child and into my teens. However, even though this man has an astounding arrest record, the courts still determined that he had visitation rights. If my mom did not allow him access, he could take her to court for more. Not that he would actually use them often. I maybe saw him once a year if I was lucky, though he would call and make plans often and just not show up. I can remember distinctly one Christmas sitting on the front stoop, crying for hours on end with my bags packed, waiting for him to arrive because he promised this time he would. Refusing to allow my mother to bring me inside until my fingers were almost purple. This man also brought me into a home with my sibling in which he sold drugs. We would get to spend a week with him, and he would be in the back room for almost the entire time. More often than not, it was his girlfriend of the time that was taking care of us. If we were lucky to see him once every day, that was a blessing. I distinctly remember one time in which I had finally gotten to see him after 2 years. And when I was there, a police officer came to the door. I slammed the door in the cop's face because I knew he would try and take my dad, and I had finally gotten a chance to see him, so I told him he wasn't welcome. Or walking through the McDonald's drive-thru at 2 o'clock in the morning at 10 years old because we were hungry and it wasn't that far. We could see it from the stoop of the home. It wasn't until I was 11 years old when I finally realized that my father was a drug addict, because that was the first time he smoked crack in front of me. We actually ended up breaking down on the side of the road, and a cop came to see if we were okay. My father had a suspended license because he was not paying child support, of course. Before the cop went back into the vehicle to search it, I knew if he found that crack pipe, I would not see my dad again for a long time, so I hid it in my bag. Anytime I did see him, He would always make sure to tell me that the reason why we didn't have our family together was because of my stepdad. It was always my stepdad who destroyed our family. It was always my mom's fault he couldn't come see us. It wasn't until I was 14 and threw it in my mom's face that it was her fault that I couldn't see my dad, because she takes all his money that she actually printed out all of his child support payments. For 2 kids for 13 years, he had paid a grand total of $6,000. And all of that was garnished because they had found out where he worked. He never voluntarily paid a dime. Fast forward to being 27 years old. I have not had a relationship with him, and all of a sudden I get a call from my aunt telling me that I need to help him because he's trying to get sober after beating up my 74-year-old grandfather with a broken neck. I started to reconnect with him, under the condition that he stayed sober. That didn't last. He called me on my birthday while he was drunk and told me that the only thing he ever did to me was stay away. I screamed at him that I wish that he had actually stayed away, because he ruins any opportunity of me having a normal childhood. I have nightmares from the things I experienced in his home. The relationship I have with my stepfather was strained for many years because of him. This man tells me that I owe him the opportunity to be a father. I told him he had that opportunity when I was a child, and he chose drugs over his children. He doesn't get to play father now. I hung up the phone, and I have not spoken to him since. However, my aunt and other relatives have been telling me that I am judging him too harshly. And how is he supposed to stay sober if I don't give him a chance? But I have given him so many chances over the years. My aunt also tells me that this is the nature of addiction, and I should go to Al-Anon meetings because then I would understand I need to just accept them as they are. But I don't feel like I should have to when my life feels less complicated and better without him in it. So, 8th? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Ask Aunt how many times did she hide his drugs and drug paraphernalia? How many times did she turn police away? How many times did she lie to cops? How many times she was let down? Ask her to explain thoroughly why you should have a relationship with a violent man who tried poisoning you against your mother. Ask her to explain thoroughly why she's defending the man who beat up her 74-year-old father. The man who either broke her father's neck or beat up her father whose neck was broken. I am assuming this is a paternal aunt, as maybe a maternal relative would be less likely to push a relationship with him. Not the idiot. Comment 2. No. Your father was terrible. He manipulated you as a kid, and the only reason he wants to see you now is because he feels entitled to the support he thinks you can give him. He doesn't give a shoot about knowing you. He just wants your help. I know that might be hard for some people to hear, but it's the truth. He realized that he burned his bridges and is now trying to clumsily shove them back into place. Block anyone who tells you to give him a chance and tell them you will go no contact until they apologize. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around for this update. So 2 weeks ago, my father showed up at my doorstep, out of the blue. No call, no warning. He just stood there, looking like he carried the weight of the world. He said he was clean, had been for a few months now, and he wanted to talk. I didn't want to let him in, but he looked so broken I couldn't turn him away. I thought maybe, just maybe, things could be different. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd done homework as a kid, wishing he'd been there to help me. He started talking about making amends, about how he's been attending meetings and facing his past. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But then he dropped a bomb. He's sick, seriously sick. Some kind of liver disease, he said, from all the years of drug abuse. He needs a transplant. And guess who's a match? Me. I was floored. I mean, after everything, he comes to me for help? I told him I'd think about it, but inside I was screaming. How could he ask this of me? But then he left, and I haven't heard from him since. Just like that, he walked back out of my life, leaving me with this huge decision to make. And as if that wasn't enough, my aunt called me the next day. She said my father had been in an accident, nothing serious, but he'd been arrested for driving without a license. Again. And guess who they called to bail him out? Me. I refused. I told her that he needs to face the consequences of his actions for once. She said I was being heartless, that he was trying to change. But I've heard that song and dance before. Then, my sister, who I haven't talked to much since she took his side years ago, reached out. She said she's pregnant and wants our father in her child's life. She asked me to reconsider the transplant, to do it for her if not for him. I couldn't even respond. I just hung up. Now, I'm sitting here trying to make sense of it all. My father, the man who's caused so much pain in my life, needs me to save his. My sister, who's always been in his corner, is asking me to forgive and forget. And I'm here, feeling like the villain in their story for wanting to protect myself. But the worst part of me is considering it. Part of me wants to believe that this could be the thing that finally turns his life around. And that's what I can't accept. That after all these years, after all the letdowns and the heartache, I'm still hoping for a happy ending that I know deep down will never come. Thanks for reading this mess of an update. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.